I'm Balikanu K. I'm currently the Joint Secretary of VIT Alumni Association, and I'm a passed out of 2007 BTech Biotech batch. And I'm very happy to see all of you who have joined here in interest towards the career path, carving a career in bio research by Dr. Siva Sankari. So first, without further delay, we'll get into the session. I take immense pleasure in welcoming you all for this session. First of all, I welcome Dr. Siva Sankari, who is the speaker for today. I also welcome other VIT alumni members, VIT staff members, VIT students, and other interested individuals who have joined in the session. And now I'm happy to introduce Dr. Siva Sankari. She is a proud alumnus from BTech Biotech 2007 batch. She hails from a middle class family in a small town of Pudukkottai in Tamil Nadu. She has carved her path in science to currently hold a research scientist position at the prestigious MIT USA. She has won many awards and has published many peer-reviewed articles in top journals throughout her academic career. She has also taught many undergraduate and master's degree classes both in India and in USA. Apart from this, she has participated in extracurricular activities and held on to her interest in singing. She is passionate about drawing many students, especially girls, into scientific research. She has conducted webinars for school children and counselors for debunking myths about scientific research and to lay out the various career options in science. So this is an area of interest for Dr. Siva Sankari, and we thank Dr. Siva Sankari for coming here. And over to you, Shiva.
Okay. Thanks, Vali, for the nice introduction. I thank Valikanu for making this possible and connecting me to the Alumni Association. I thank Krishna Kumar sir for from VIT Alumni Association for giving me this opportunity. I see many of my teachers here, makes me a little nervous, but I'm thankful that you have all joined here, and I thank all the participants for taking your time to listen about various career pathways that one could take. With that, I'll share my screen. I would request all the participants to just mute yourself and post your questions in chat later on.
Thank you, Shiva. So participants, you can as and when the speaker is delivering the session, if you have questions, you can still post it in the chat box and we will take it up when the Q&A session starts. Thank you.
Okay, so so I've shared my email ID for the participants. So if you have further questions, you can always contact me, and I'm happy to help. And I'm already some of the undergraduates are in touch with me, and I'm always happy to introduce you to different avenues in science. With that, so for today's talk, it will be mostly focused on my journey, what steps I took to get into my position right now. I'll also say what other steps one could take to get to the same position. And also, it won't be just my story. I'll introduce you to different aspects of what you could do in the current scenario, because I did undergraduate like 13 years ago. So what is the current scenario? What steps one could take in undergraduate studies to get into a research career? And also about if you want to apply to graduate studies in the US, then what your application package should look like. I have some first-hand experience because I'm mentoring so many students who have actually got into graduate studies in the US. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And I'll also, when talking about my journey, I'll also tell you about what's actually the doctoral study looks like in US and what it takes to do a PhD. And finally, I'll lay out options in science like it's not just research. There's like plenty of option that one could take in every step of your career, like be it be undergraduate, masters, or graduate studies. One could always look at the other options, maybe try different option and get back to research if you want, or stay in that options. So I'll also lay out those. So for my journey, my schooling, like Wally said, I'm from a very small town, and with my parents having no scientific background or anything like that. But one thing I did in school, which I think is very important, was to participate in many extracurricular activities. My parents always encouraged me to do that, which I feel is very good. And then the one opportunity that it gave me was so when I go to outside my city to participate in these, I meet other students who come from different cities, and they actually enlighten me about the various exams out there or various opportunities out there, which I listened very carefully and took those opportunities, and at least attempted to find out those. In fact, VIT entrance examination was brought to me by one of the participant I met in a different competition. So so I think that the networking is very important in science, and I think participating in different things will broaden your network and bring in new opportunities, and one should always look for those and keep your eyes and ears open for those opportunities. Then comes VIT, which is always, it's an honor for me to give the talk today to my parent institution. And so what made me decide VIT, like you all will have one of the factors that made you uh, come to choose biotech or biosciences in general. So for me, it was genetics and molecular biology that I did in school. My teachers for those subjects were really good. They introduced me to a broader perspective, which made me develop interest in those things. And then I also heard, like I went outside and heard from other students, and then I joined VIT, which was like an important step in my life. And so like everybody else, I had like a somewhat of a difficult time during my first year. I think mainly because I was of the exposure I had. And my classmates were all like really smart. They're still really smart. And they could get uh, like the concepts that were put out in classroom very easily, rather than I'm me understanding it. So what I did was, usually this leads to kind of an imposter syndrome in students. But what I did to overcome that was, I made it a thing that I should at least understand what's going on in the class. So to that, the previous, I would used to go to the VIT library. It's a wonderful resource. There's like, even that time it had like all the necessary materials, even beyond the necessary materials, to enlighten yourself. So I would go there and prepare myself just to at least understand what's going on in the class. So that's mostly my first year and second year, I would say. And that my teachers were very nice. They gave me a broad perspective, and I would go and cut that into pieces and understand it part by part. I think that's more important when you have decided to get into a research career. It's always important to cut the part into pieces and then go deep into it, and at least try to understand that, so that even if it doesn't reflect in your exams, it will always be useful. I still use the concept that I learned during my undergraduate studies. So it's always important to get into nitty gritty of every subject that you come across. Then so I would always be thankful to VIT library. Then I took the gate, prepared for the gate exam. You would know it's the for getting into masters in India. And that time it had chemistry as a compulsory subject. I would encourage anybody who's in biosciences career to put some emphasis on chemistry, because one would think having biology is enough, but this exam made me go through chemistry, like all avenues of chemistry, which helped me in my PhD very much. Like those chemical concepts that I understood took me to where I was in PhD. So I would ask all the biosciences researchers to put some emphasis on chemistry. And then I still enjoyed my life at VIT. I took part in so many singing events, with even with Valli, we used to conduct Antakshari competitions in Rivera. It was a really fun time, and but still enlightening time for me. And I think I took full opportunity of what I could get in that undergraduate life. And then so then I went to, so I took the GATE exam, I passed that, and then went to do MTech in Anna University. So I also got placed in an IT firm. So it's really important for one to take this decision, especially for girls. Since I'm giving these talks to girls, I'm giving more emphasis on girls. So because that's a testing time for us, for especially for me, because I took some educational loans to get into to complete my undergraduate studies, and so it was always like a question: should I go to work right now, or should I get out of science, or should I stay in and do research? So this question arises especially from the family situation, but I was so determined that I should get into research. And so that, in fact, I don't want my all those years of preparations of examinations of GATE to get into to lose those years. So I was more focused on research. And even though the scholarship that we get in GATE is so much less compared to a job in IT, I decided to stay on with this. And also, it's important to gain independence. Also, for a student like me, since I got that scholarship, it was easier for me to argue and get into research as a career, because I would the funds that were given to me through the scholarship was insufficient for me to sustain, so I don't have to depend for financially. So those things are the things one should keep in mind. Like, are you financially independent? Do you really want to get into research? Because research immediately does not give that much financial comfort. But it's always worth it. I always made sure that I had enough thing to gain independence and do research. And then in MTech, I was actually uh, introduced to real research, and I did so much projects. And then I was also introduced to many scientific literature, which nowadays is expected from undergraduates itself. I'll talk a little bit about that. And I also attended so many talks I was in Chennai, obviously, and attended so many talks from eminent scientists. So that inspired me to stay in research after MTech. So, like I said, now that is expected of an undergraduate student. So what would you do if you are in an undergraduate to get into a research career? Of course, research. So it's very important that one should get into as many projects as you can during your undergraduate itself, at any part of your research career. It's important to do the academics, but it's more important to do research and get practical hands-on training on all the techniques that's available to you. And also involve yourself in a project, in a particular project. However small role you might play in that project, that doesn't matter. As long as you're going to do contribute something to that project, then it plays a significant role in your application. I'll come to the application part later, but I would say that it's very important to do the projects and focus on the projects, getting it done. And of course you will get negative results when you try it for the first time, but it's very important to stay on and do get some contribute some part of the project. And then you can also get some publication if you can. If there is a big publication that's coming out of the lab, you can at least be a part of it. Or you can write with your teachers, you can start writing reviews in undergrad when you're doing undergraduates. And also you can attend as many conferences as you can and get publications from there. If these are all like things I'm saying, it's not compulsory that you should have something like this, but these are all like a boost. And then also get internship and scholarship. I know I meet VIT students every year who come to MIT for this iGEM competition. And I am really proud that VIT has won in those competition. And so it's good to go out like that, participate in those. So these are all like boosting to your CV. Especially I'm saying this because previously there was GRE, which determines most of your fate. That time application itself costs you something. Of course, I didn't have that much financial resources to do application. That's one of the reason that I wrote GATE. But it is important that you focus on research, because nowadays judging you to get into grad school is mostly based on your research and your what courses you have taken, not because of the GRE score, because many graduate schools in US have completely eliminated the GRE process, especially in biology. I've heard that last year around 100 more than 100 schools have eliminated GRE from their testing options. So they don't no longer judge you based on GRE, which is good, I think, but it puts more emphasis on research. Then I took up a teaching a job at Venkateshwara College of Engineering. That was to gain some time for me to know about teaching or options. My next plan would be to apply to either to US or to PhD positions in India based on where I get. But I wanted some time, and I really liked teaching at that point. And I would say that teaching actually enlightened me more on the concepts, because when you are trying to understand to other try to understand and explain it to others, it's more important, and it gives you more deeper understanding of the concepts. So even when I was in VIT, you can do this as an undergraduate student, that I usually have a cohort of my friends, and I used to explain all my technical learning to them. I'll make them sit and listen to what I have understood, so that if I'm explaining it to them, I have already digested that concept. So it's easy for me to simplify it and say. Simplifying the concepts is very important, because in US, it's not like you're not going to use any GRE words to write publication. It's all about simplicity. How simple can you explain your research in simple terms to when you're writing a paper? Even in a technical paper, they expect simplicity, not like complex things. So because an editor has to understand first before the technical people read it. So that I think helped me a lot, like explaining it to students, explaining it to friends, helped me a lot. Then teaching comes with a lot of administrative roles, so that gave me an understanding of how the system works. And again, I could have stayed there for my and settled there, but again I wanted to learn more about research, wanted to do more hands-on research, and that's why I applied. That time there was GRE, so unfortunately I had to write that exam. So then I'll explain a little bit about the application packet that you need to send. So it consists mostly of your CV. Again, I'll say emphasis on publications, if not on conferences, also on research projects that you have done. Those info, it's really I think it's hard for without GRE and a student's perspective, because the application timeline is like you are doing something this year, but the application will be for the following fall. So you have to apply by October or October, November, December of this year in order to get into September next year. So you should have some kind of research background now in order to apply later. So I would say start from beginning, and or you can take like a gap year where you focus on research, or you do a master's and focus on research so that you prepare yourself well for that application process. And
I'm
then
sorry.
there
Sorry to
is
interrupt.
uh-huh.
Excuse me, ma'am. Sorry to interrupt. May I know what is GRE, ma'am? I'm basically a first year student, so I've doubt.
Yeah, you can, I will explain. You can type your questions in the chat so that Wally will ask it to me later. GRE is graduate record examinations. It's an examination required for any graduate studies in USA. If you want to go to USA for any graduate studies, masters or PhD, then you need to clear that exam. That's GRE. And then so coming back, the application is about the CV. So they put more focus on research, and then that the statement of purpose. So this is a document. It's like a writing sample for you, that you write about yourself. What's more important for you? Why are you doing this research? Why are you interested in doing research in this particular organization? So I think that's very important, because it gives you an opportunity to explain yourself, why you are there. And it also gives you an opportunity to talk about your research, because in CV it's just like you got involved in this research project, that's it. But if you have done some real research, then you can explain that in the SOP, which is like super important. And they see like I've talked to people who select graduate students for when they come here. And so what they see is what you have learned from that research, not like what big research you have done, like, oh, you have done this, you've discovered this. They don't see that. They see what you have learned from that particular small thing that you did. So that's important. And write about that. It's very important. And then reference letters. Of course, VIT has excellent professors to write you reference letters, so it's okay. And then choose. You can also so that when you have done a research project under somebody, it's for sure, please get a reference letter from them, so they'll give you a first hand uh, note about how you did your research. So that's very important. And then then I would recommend, so this is what I tell every student now. So if you are going to apply for PhD in US, I would ask, like, group it into various ranking. So you will have, like, so for example, if you're doing 10 application packets, do 3 for high ranking university, 3 for middle ranking university, and 3 for lower ranking university. Because you might not know, especially during this lockdown corona, you might not know how many applications or the graduates to school accepting, and you might not know what they see, who are your competitors. So it's always better to, and you don't have time, right? You have just these 3 months to do. So you can just group it into different ranking, and then choose based on that. And I would highly recommend covering the entire range. Don't just apply high ranking universities, don't just apply low ranking universities, because you never know where good labs are. It's important that the lab you join is also good. So just give it a wide range. And recently what I have seen is students come here for doing their 6 months project that you do. I think that's a very good thing, because then you get to know what is in the system. And I see so many students get accepting into the graduate school based on what they did here. So if you get an opportunity to do a 6 months project here or anywhere else, like European countries also, or in a bigger institution, then and I would recommend that, doing that. And and that's one step you can do. Or if you're doing in your parent institution, then focus more on research, and put your full time on that 6 months project. Not just don't do okay, I should do something here and then prepare for something else there. No, just put your whole self on the project that you're doing. And then so like I said, it needs at least a year of preparation, so start early. It's not easy to write a statement of purpose in a day. You don't give yourself like just 2 days to write a statement of purpose. You need to give at least like 2 months, circulate it to as many people as you can, get feedbacks, correct it, give yourself plenty of time, because I know you have to take some examinations academically also. So give yourself plenty of time for this preparing this application packet. So I got accepted into University at Buffalo in New York. It's not a very big school again, but I really liked the department, because I realized on that point, I got to a conclusion that I wanted to do biochemistry. And because what I loved about it was it's there in every avenue of biosciences. So be it cancer biology, neurobiology, or anything that biochemistry is like a basics thing. So I wanted to do something in that. And this school had like a department of biochemistry as such. And one important reason was they gave me full funding, which is another thing that should get into your minds. And so that's why I chose this university. Like, so it's not just the university that you should look for, but also look for the departments they have, and who is there and what actual research are they doing there. So you need time to look into these things before you are applying, so give yourself time for that. So I like this department, and that's why I applied, and I was very happy I got into it. And then I would say, if my PhD advisor wants to describe me, he would say, he would not say that I was really smart, because there were other smart people over there, but he would say that I was really hardworking and persistent in getting my results done. So that's what I think is very important, that you keep trying. And it is hard. Graduate study here is like it takes like 5 to 6 years in general, and you have to put your full self into the studies to get something actually done. And I would say the opposite. Like in undergraduate, you were part of a big research group, and you did like small things to get there, get your publication. But in your graduate studies, you should be the first author in as many publication as you can. So you should have your own project. Even if you join like a super hot shot lab, make sure that you carve your own project in the doctoral studies, and you do get first author publications from that. I've seen many, even in MIT, I see so many students who are part of a bigger lab get lost in that bigger projects, and their name will go somewhere in the publication list. So but this is a small university, and Mars is a small lab, so I was able to test different things, and I was given importance and my own independent project to work on, which I really liked. And then I also had like still followed on to my extracurricular activities, had work-life balance, which is also important during graduating life. Um, then what I did to get into MIT was like my publications. The publications speak for yourself, and also other things like I attended conferences, which are important. and also networking. I would say that's very important. Even in your undergraduate studies, you can write to professors over here and try to get into the 6 months project here, or you can even come for internships. So there is this program called Corona scholarship program. There are so many summer scholarship programs out there that you can apply, and Indian government and in ties with the US government will give you funding for doing like 2-3 months of projects here. So always networking is so much important. After you do a research internship here, you can talk to so many people and get yourself introduced. So I think my committee member during my PhD thesis gave me this networking thing to my current PI. So then I talked to him and gave a presentation, and then that's how I got into MIT. So networking is an important part. Make sure you follow up on everybody you network, and keep track, and always be persistent. And then now I realize the importance of time. I have a kid, so it's like making a balance in your life. But one thing I want to emphasize is you don't have to be like super nerdy and not have a personal life. It's not like researchers here don't have a personal life. In fact, they are the one who has most social life. And all my investigators, all my boss, were like really good at making balances. They all have social life, personal life, and really live a happy life. It's not like we are stuck in the lab forever. And then why I choose science, like this one is like just to give you a little bit of motivation to join PhD. So when we do research, it gives me a complete creative freedom. I can try whatever experiment I want to get the research done. And so it's not like I'm not doing anything over and over again. I make sure that I don't do it, and I can choose between different options in making the experiment. I may not have the complete freedom of designing the whole project, but I'll have at least some freedom in doing what I want that day. And also, uh, then it's give me more pleasure in knowing that I'm discovering something nobody else in this world knows. So that joy is something I really like. And of course, so many experiments fail. That's what science is. But I would say that when I do an experiment and if it succeed, I'm happy. But if it fails, and then I figure out why that failed, that gives me more happiness and satisfaction, because then I can correct it, and then it gives me more understanding. So that those are the moments that I really love, and those are really priceless. And then it also gives me serenity, because there's no my mind, and I think I speak for everybody here, that it's their mind is more occupied with their research, and there is no place for junk in it. Now I come to the science career part. So I'm doing research, and but there is so many options out there that you can, like I said, you can take in those options in any part of your career. And then you can, if you want, you can shift to some other options also in between. And only thing you have to make sure is you are staying in touch with science. It's not like you can go to some other field and come back. I don't say that's not possible, but that will be hard. But if you are related to science and take any of these options, then you can come back and do whatever you want in science. So what are the options are there? There's research and teaching faculty. Of course, that's the mainstream that's there. There is also fully teaching positions that are available. So I'm talking about careers in US. These are also available in India, but it's also there in every part of the world. So it's not like, but I am talking from the perspective of USA. There is teaching faculty that's available. It's like full-time teaching. So you teach undergraduates and a master student there. There is also science entrepreneurs. So here in Boston, there is so many biotech companies, and there is like so many startups that come from so many different new young minds. So you can be a science entrepreneur, and there is also courses that you can take in order to get into science entrepreneurship. Those are all like part time. You can do your academic career and then just take those courses to become one. It's not very, you don't have to like put time outside of your periphery. And then there is industry jobs. Of course, there's industry postdocs too there, where you can do research in industry, not just lab work. And then there is science administration and science policy, where you can work for the government, and you frame policies, and you can make sure there are courses that train you for science policy also. And then patent law, of course, that's one of the emerging fields, where you write patents for your clients, and you can also study. So those patent firms will make you study law if you want, so which is good. And there's also this technology transfer centers, where you can get employment and stay in science. So you help researchers to uh, make patents, or you like help researchers to bring their product into industry oriented products. So that those centers are also there. And then so there's also science journalism, where you can be editors to big journals. So the job is to read through so many papers that you get, and then you can direct it to different reviewers. You have the choice of selecting and rejecting a paper, stuff like that. So that's also possible. Science journalism is also an emerging field. So these are all some of the things that I have here. And I think I'm getting to the end of the presentation. So one thing I want to let you know is, so there is always opportunity in science, not just on research. So just keep your eyes and ears open, do network properly, and focus. If you want to get into research, then I would encourage focus more on projects right now. And with that, I'll again thank the opportunity given by Alumni Association. And I always have to thank my teachers and parents for letting me do what I want to do. Yeah, thanks. Wali, I can take
Yeah,
questions.
yeah. Thank you, Dr. Shiva. So I request the participants, some of you have already started putting in your questions. So if you have questions based on what Dr. Siva Sankari has delivered, please put it in the chat box and your questions will be answered one after the other. So there are some basic questions, I think, which are already been cleared by Satish Anna. Thank you, Satish Anna, for that. So he's like, there are some very basic questions which he's cleared already in the chat. So I'm just
Mhm.
going on to the other few important questions, some of which I'm trying to club and put it to you, Shiva.
Mhm.
Okay, so like there are two questions, both similar. So I'm just putting it to you together. One from Divya Anandan and another from Kushi. So they would like to know about how the process for applying for your postdoc positions, like
Mhm.
how what preparations do you do for that? And there is also another question club to that. Like I've done the PhD in India. I've done my process of research till PhD in India. So can I just apply for postdoc alone to the US?
Mhm. Yeah, both are good questions. So, for postdoc, it's like not like a set rule. Like for PhD, there is a process where there is an application process. You go through that. But for postdoc, it's not a set rule. Mostly, it comes through. There are advertisements that comes through journals, and there are nowadays I see even applications through Twitter, but so then you apply through that applications. But postdoc mostly works by networking. So you have your profile ready, you have your publications ready, and then you write to your whoever you want to research with, and see if they have funding. and also see if they have an opening in the lab. It doesn't harm to write to anybody you want to join. You can write even if they don't have the position right now open for you. They can make something for you in near future. So it's always important to write. Just keep writing and stay in touch. And I would also recommend, like, if you have a postdoc in that lab, then you can broaden your network, have as many contacts as you can, and they'll let you know. Like, I have let people know if there is an opening at MIT or something like that. And so those kind of networking will help getting you into a postdoc. But most important thing is how you write your a cover letter. So for postdoc, you have to write a cover letter and CV. So cover letter is about, it's like kind of SOP, but it has a different format. So about what you have researched on, and of course publications that speak for itself. But not necessarily if you have a really good publication you will sell through yourself. They'll call you for a presentation, and you have to present your work in a diligent way. So that's also there. But I would say there is no set route to go there. You can just it's all through networking and writing to professors you want to join. And then the next question is, yes, of course there is a special visa, J1 visa, for researchers who come here just for postdoc. And it's again through networking. You write to professors here, and you come here for postdoc. It is possible to get postdoc in any other country also. It's not like just in the US. The procedure is mostly the same.
Thank you, Shiva. So the next question is from Ms. Shilpa Nair. So can you just brief a little about pursuing next generation sequencing?
So it's a technique. So we all use it right now. People in all the fields in biosciences use it. So it's a technique. So you can learn it, and you can incorporate into your research. Or if you want to take it as a career, then there is centers in different universities where there is like this genomic center. For example, in our department, we have this biomicro center where there are people who do next gen sequencing for us. Those are they are people who are trained in bioinformatics and molecular biology, and also they should know about data science and data management techniques. So they are people who are trained in that, who can help us do. So there are centers where you can get employed. And it's a technique that everybody uses, and if you can incorporate into your research, then it's good.
Okay, thank you, Shiva. So there's another student, Ms. Madhumita. Like you had mentioned, Shiva, about networking, the importance of it for getting into the PhD studies and postdoc studies. So her question is like she's little stuck up in her PhD because she isn't able to get out with the paper. So how to build up the networking skills? Like how do you build up your networking actually?
So it happens to so many students. It's not like necessarily you will get publication in your timeline. So don't be discouraged. That's my first thought. And how to do networking? So you go to conferences and you present on your, so not necessarily published work. You don't present published work, right? So you can, so you have done these research. So you go to conferences and talk to researchers about there, or you present a poster. There will be so many people who can come to your poster and you explain your research. That's one way of networking. Or you can write and ask for somebody to some professor, like, can I come and present in your lab? It's just a presentation, not necessarily like you are going to apply there, but do it. And I would say that the more you present, the more exposure you get, and that's good. And then you follow up on them. You meet postdocs there, and you then talk to them, and then ask about postdoc positions there. And when you are writing in when you're writing in a cover letter, then explain what you learned from your project. So you can say that your publication is under process, but you can still say what your main projects are, or how you overcome the difficulties, and what are your main findings there, and what are the resources that you used, what are the techniques you learned from those experiments. That will help also.
Right. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you, Shiva. So the next question is from Ms. Divya. So her question is like, how do we jump from applying scientific research into actual industry? Say, for example, I've done my PhD degree and I would like to get into the industry after that. So what are the steps I can take after that? Like
There
making
are
my research
industry, if you
commercial.
want to get into industry postdocs, there are industry postdocs that are available, and you apply to the industry as such. Like for industry, it's not like academic. So the procedure is same. I think they call you for a presentation, and you go give your presentation to the industry, and it's like but for them you have a specific set of things that you can find out, like you have a cover letter, and you should have specific skills, so they see more on techniques, but the rules are same. You network, you talk to people in industry. In fact, I would say more than in academic, in industry jobs, networking is even more important, because then because like there is like 300 400 application that come to industry, and they have to screen through all this by a HR who's from a different background maybe. So it's more important to do networking there, but it is possible. Plenty of industry now apply have industry postdocs in uh, many avenues, and it's the technical skills you have to develop, which you develop during PhD, you apply there. And the good thing is they'll just directly take you into an industry position after you finish your postdoc there, and you have an advantage because you are from already from that company, so you'll have more advantage. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is from Mr. Anand. So he's asking you, can you just brief a little about the US government postdoc fellowships available for foreign nationals?
Yes. So I wouldn't say there is government fellowship, but there are so many other fellowships. So there is Jane Coffin's fund that's available. That's for anybody. You don't have no visa restriction. There is LSRF, which is again a research fund that's available, not based on, you can be from any country for that. And there is Helen Hay Whitney Foundation, which gives you funding for, in fact, that gives you funding even if you join as a faculty, so which is good. So that's there. Mm, so these are there are so many other like American Heart Foundation has funding for postdocs. So for postdocs, it's not necessarily like for PhD, it's hard to get funding if you're a foreign national. But for postdocs, there is like several funding available, not necessarily from the government, but from private organization, which do not see any background as which country you have coming from or what visa type you have, those things. And so there is plenty that you can apply even when you are at the end of your graduate school.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Shiva. So the next question is from Ms. Shraddha Sharkar. So she wants to know more about the science journalism, and is there like scope for that in India too?
Yes. There is. I have a friend who has joined Elsevier. So it's like there are publishing groups. In fact, so many I would say that so many companies, like publishing companies that are here, have their base in India and different companies. So they work remotely from here. Their offices are in different parts of the world, and so the editors and the people who work on those manuscripts are actually from other their base is from other countries. So they do have offices in India, and there is that's a coming up field, and there is editor job and manuscript correction jobs that's there in India. So see for scientific publishing groups that are available in India.
Thank you, Shiva. So Shiva, I'm happy that you have appreciations coming from our teachers. Sridharan sir and Karthikeyan sir have wished you in the chat box. Thank you, sir. Happy to
Thank
see
you,
your
sir.
comment.
Thank you so much.
And Karthikeyan sir also has a question for you. Like, when will VIT reach to MIT in terms of credibility? What are the areas you think to be strengthened? Maybe based on your experience in both the universities.
I would say, given the resources, VIT has like a lot of potential. Um, I would say, if you want to focus, then it's on research, which will help both the university and not just industrial research, but also basic research. If there is more research, then naturally the university will have more publication, which will shed light on that.
Okay.
And I hear that VIT has so many already has so many instruments and facilities available for pursuing research. I think it's just more students should get into it.
Okay. Thank you, Shiva. To the participants, there are already a lot of questions being put up in the chat box. So, we would stop questions which have come till now, not beyond this. So, I request you all to, in case you have more questions, you can post it to Dr. Siva Sankari to her mail ID. But we'll deal with the other questions which have already been put up. So the next question, Shiva, is from a student, Mr. Rahul. So, his question is also common to many other students. So, can you explain about the preparation process for GATE examination? He exactly wants to know which year of my BTech should I start preparing. But in general, can you explain the preparation process for GATE?
Um, okay, so I'm not sure what are the subjects that are compulsory now, but I can talk about the preparation. So for preparation, if you are sure that you are going to take GATE, then start preparing from the first year. So why not? So because it if like for a person like me who did not have that much background in science, it took so much time to get to know what is the concepts and things like that. So, and also so they give in GATE, they give you reference books that you should be going through, and I'm sure those books are already available in VIT. So just go through what is the syllabus, and it's more like self inquiry. You should do the investigation and read for it. And those courses, or our VIT course is actually touch on, though it's not like something completely foreign that you are reading for the syllabus, right? It's tied up to what you're going to learn. So if you learn for that, it's like going to reflect anyway on your exams in VIT. So it's always good to prepare ahead, and I would say give at least like 2 attempts to help yourself. Even if you fail in the first attempt, then you can do it in the second one. So give yourself time and just attempt it more times. And also I would say, like, nowadays there is more questions, like question paper previous preparations, just like any other exams. So you can go through that and see the syllabus back and read those concepts as well. But prepare as early as you can.
Thank you, Shiva. So next question is again a general question for many students. Like, which is a better option, like an MTech in India or an MS abroad? Like, which would be a better career option?
It's totally up to you, because it's the same. They people I see so many people who apply MS in US coming to PhD in US, and also it's the same people from who do MTech in India also come here for a PhD. So but the question is up to you. Like, if you have enough, so for MS. Some universities give you full funding in US, but some universities don't. So you have to either do TAing or work as a research assistant and then do your coursework also. So that is there. Here there are some funding scholarships that are available. So that is one part. but it's all the same. And but MTech is, I would say, extension of BTech. MS, where so for example, for me, MTech in biotech was more industrial oriented, so I learned more about bioprocess and chose projects that are related to it. And again, I will, it's like an extension where you know more, like you explore in detail of the concepts that you learned in BTech. But in the US, MS is like more focused. So if you are taking one MS in biochemistry, then it will be like more or less tailored to where it is going to be. So you have to choose ahead of time before getting into MS. So it's up. There are so these are the advantages and disadvantages. If you know already that you want to go only to this, then you can choose that particular MS in neuroscience, for example, and go there. If you want to still explore and get hands-on research, or if you want time to prepare for your PhD, then you can do MTech here and do that.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Shiva. So that question was from Priyanka Shanai. And the next question is from Mr. Vishnu Karthik. So he's asking like, which is a better option after BTech, either direct PhD or MTech?
I would say that also based on your timeline. If you have done enough research in your BTech, since I said, remember, there's no GRE now for most institutions, so you have to show up on your research. If you have enough research experience in your BTech, go ahead. There are so many institutions that's the only BTech. You can apply for PhD. So that's it's all based on how much research you have done and how much time you have. Because, like I said, it takes 1 year. So if you are applying now, previously there was GRE, so you can write GRE in your third year and get to PhD in your fourth, when you are finishing your fourth year based on the GRE scores. But now it's not like that. So you have to show up on your research. So if you have enough research done by the end of your third year, then you can go ahead and apply. If you don't have enough research done by that, then it's better to go to MTech or something. Give yourself some time, build up on your research, and then apply.
Okay. So the next question is from Mr. Nakul. So when can we make a choice on choosing the stream in biotechnology?
Very good question. So I would say biosciences is a very broad topic, and it not necessarily. So some students say to me that I want to do only cancer biology or I want to do only neuroscience. I would say in the beginning level, if you're doing, like, for example, a master's or a beginning level, it's useful to have a broader basic subjects like biochemistry, microbiology, like where you can further develop into a more specific avenue. And it's not, I don't see like any difference between the what to say, difference between the subjects here. Because like, for example, I do microbiology, but I do biochemistry, I do genetics, I do molecular biology. It's like everything together, so it's all very tightly interconnected, and it's based on what you learn. Look, so for example, if I want to do some next gen sequencing, for example, then I learn bioinformatics and learn what's there and then do that. No, not necessarily that I should be only in bioinformatics background to do that. And if there is a new experiment, or if my all of a sudden I discover something that can be applied in cancer, then I learn about cancer biology and do that. So it's not like a specific thing that you should focus when you are at the early part of your career. Later you can get specialized in that, but then I would say keep as broad as possible, so that whenever necessary you can evolve. And it's all interdisciplinary. You don't have to worry, oh, I learned only microbiology here, but now I have to work on animal cells and do other mammalian experiments. It's not like that. You can always learn and diverge after you have it's more fluid situation. So my recommendation is, don't be so specific in the basics, but it's always possible to change after you've entered into certain projects. It's about how you learn and how you evolve. It's not like you have to stick to one thing.
Okay, thank you, Shiva. So that has answered a few other questions also, which were based on that. So we are I'm just limiting it to 2 or 3 more questions, and like further questions might be like directed to her, because majority of them are like towards a specific which may not be applicable to everybody in common. So maybe such questions can be put to the speaker in
Sure,
person.
sure. Yeah, you can write to me anytime. I'm always, like I said, I'm still in contact with many undergraduates in VIT, and like they visit me for this competitions and stuff. So I'm always happy to help.
Yeah. So the next question is like, because there are a lot of institutes, based on what do you actually choose the institute or the university?
For PhD.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for PhD, there I would agree that there are a lot. So one advantage is if you have done some research on what those professors are working on, then you will have some idea on what you are, if you are interested or aligned with their interest. So I would say not just the department or the university or the ranking of the university, but see also the professors who are there, and what kind of research do they do, where they publish their papers, and then you can take that as a bar, set your bars there, and then choose the university. And I would it is personal also. For me it was like, where will I get funding and still do biochemistry? So things like funding also plays a role, because some universities will say I can give you partial funding, and I can give you some TA work that you can do. When those things didn't suit me, I want to focus on research. So that those may be the deciding factors for you also. And then one more thing I would say is and also the department. How is that particular department? One good thing you can do is you can network now and talk to PhDs over there. So if you don't feel that those PhD align with your thoughts, like if they say, oh, it is very hard for everybody in this department to get to graduate, or can also you can see how long do they take to graduate. And if you say, oh, everybody in this college is not happy with their PhD, then something is wrong, right? So you can network and talk to all the PhDs over in those department that you feel is comfortable, and then you can decide on where to go on. So that is also an important factor. And regarding new lab, old lab, so already established lab, you will know, right? You know how, where they publish, how is the track record for the mentor and stuff like that. If it is a new lab, don't worry, you can still join, and you can have committee members who are elders and who are like who have much experience, who can advise on you. So it doesn't, so don't restrict yourself to already established lab. You can still go to a new lab and still do more research, or newer institutions, and still have committee members from older institutions. Like for example, my boss serves in committee member to so many institutions in and around Boston. So it's not like restricted to your institution. So you can further develop also. So it's more important, like, do you have the funding? Will you have time to do research? And what's the publication record there? How many people graduate from there? Things like that.
Okay, thank you, Shiva. So maybe the last 2 questions.
Mhm.
Shiva, can you like, is there any PhD portal or in specific for the US which students can refer to?
I think there is something called a grad cafe where people who are applying together can chat with each other. That's what I heard of, but there must be so many. And also, if you go to that particular institution, and if you have, for example, if there is an institution and there is a department, that department will have student associations, which is like in Facebook or Twitter or something like that. So you can get into contact um, with those students through that department student associations also. But on top of my head, I don't know any actual, like if the universities have any portal for thing, but you can also write to the administrative staff. For example, for every graduate application process, if a school is if a department is accepting application, there will be an administrative staff who can answer all about like what should be in your application packet, things like that. And then those administrative staff can connect you with the professors also, like so they can also give insights about what research is going on. So you can always get in touch. If the professors are very busy, you can touch with the administrative staff and make them a channel to talk to professors.
Okay, Shiva, so this question is from a second year student in BTech Biotechnology. So she says that she hasn't done a paper or proper research project yet. So is it still possible for her to get a good research internship in India or abroad during her BTech? So if yes, how can she go about it? Hello?
Sorry. So you're in second year, third year, so you can still get into research projects. Just write to professors. So in at BTech level, they won't expect you to have in your second year. So you can say very well that I'm interested to develop my research portfolio. So you can write that and write that to professors in India, and you can start doing your research. There's one more at least year. So if you're really into want to do it, then you can write to them, and there are also some scholarships available, so you can write to those two and get summer scholarships also, so which you can start doing it. Don't worry if you don't get into bigger institution for research. You can still if you have the like the a persistent behavior to get where you want to go, so you can still go to a smaller institution and then develop from there.
Okay, right. Fine. Thank you, Shiva. So the last question, like, what is your take on the postdoc position openings after COVID-19?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I don't know either. I'm gonna apply for faculty, and that's gonna be hard too. So everywhere it's getting harder. Postdoc, I think there will still be openings, because postdoc is like a fluid situation. People come in, work for 2 3 years, 4 years, and then they get jobs, they move to industry. So there is always a turnaround. It's not like graduate studies where you have to finish your certain projects, and you have to finish certain publication in order to graduate. So that's like a structured pathway. Postdoc is more like based on your interest, you can quit anytime. So there is more fluid, and people always come into lab and go out of lab. So there is always going to be positions that are available. So it's going to be tough. We don't know anything right now. There may be a little less opportunities, but it's also that, like, your next year, if you're applying postdoc, then this year so many people would have gone. And if there is an hiring freeze in industry or so, then they'll hire more the next year. So it's gonna be there's gonna be opening in postdocs anyway, since it's a more fluid situation.
Thank you, Shiva. So I guess we have come to the end of the session. There are still a few more questions, but I would request the participants to write them separately to the speaker, because they are more specific towards the individual. So I one so thank you. So thank you for all of you who have joined in this session, who have taken your time to listen patiently to the speaker. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Siva Sankari for having spent her time to address the gathering.
Yeah, thank you again for giving me this opportunity. I'm really glad